Welcome back to Purrfect Takes. I'm your host, Stephen Patton, joined as always by my co host and dear friend, Jacob Acquire. And we're here to talk about what happened at the bank on Sunday. And I think before we get into exactly what happened in the first half of the Miami Dolphins game, and probably more specific, the first quarter, I think it's good to take a step back and look at Bryce Young's career in totality. His rookie year, he comes on the scene, doesn't really have a great supporting cast. You see the rookie mistakes, but other moments where he should have been able to make a play because he delivered an accurate ball, made the right read. His receivers were letting him down. His offensive line wasn't giving him time. And so you knew he needed pieces around him in order to evaluate him. Post benching Bryce Young's sophomore season, he cleaned up a lot of the mistakes. He was not putting the ball in harm's way. He wasn't fumbling. He wasn't throwing interception worthy throws. He was accurate, making big time throws. He looked like the first overall pick the Carolina Panthers made him to be in 2023. So far to start this year, and I think more specifically in that Dolphins game, when you fall in a hole and you're just fumbling the ball without anybody touching you, you're trying to force the ball downfield and you're throwing an interception. I get you're like getting the jitters out of your system within the first quarter, but against good teams, when you go down 17 to zip, you don't usually come back. And so, why it was great to see the comeback, and as much as I would like to say Bryce Young was the big catalyst for it, it was more a Rico Dowdle show and him just dominating once he was given those one-on-one opportunities after the offensive line won their battle. But this is where I turn it over to you, Jacob. Like, where are we as Panthers fans need to be with Bryce Young? Like, is he truly the future, or is he just simply a starting quarterback as we figure out a different direction?
The Panthers won on Sunday, by the way. I know we're talking as if we had another Patriots blowout loss, but no, it was a win. And yes, Rico Dowdle, huge part of that. I think he was it 4 yards away from tying D'Angelo Williams' record. I almost said
Yeah.
D'Angelo Stewart. I think it was 4 yards behind that. So incredible day for Dowdle, especially through the first three quarters. He's kind of cramped up there in the fourth, but he was super, super important. I think the offensive line and defensive line dominated, but on got to have it downs, a lot of third downs, a lot of fourth downs. We'll say a second quarter onward, Bryce Young was making the plays. He was hitting T-Mac. He was hitting Lee Gett in the end zone. The last touchdown, I thought was very creative mesh concept from Dave Canales to give Mitchell Evans, the rookie tight end, another touchdown. Um, Outside of the turnover, and the turnovers are crippling. Like we talk about the Cardinals game, where similar game, we come back in that one, but can't finish with an onside kick. Um, Very, very bad. But I think his ability to read defenses has continued to improve. The difference between his first and second years and this year is both of those years, I think you could say the team around him was so bad that even in the second half of last year, when he was playing top 6 to 8 level QB, we still weren't winning in a lot of those games because the team was so bad. It took Herculean efforts where you score 30 or more without turnovers to go to overtime to get wins against bad teams, like we saw with Atlanta and then Arizona before that. Now I think the team's a little bit better. So if he can just settle down, I think there's something there. There's a winning formula there. We see it this week in the second half. We certainly saw it week three, even though I don't think the offense was astounding in week three. And then you look at stuff like week four, where there are no turnovers. Bryce Young plays a clean game. It's just the rest of the team around him. And I don't want to say Bryce Young was a superstar or anything, but the team is good enough now that if the rest of the team plays well, we can get wins. I think the issue is that if Bryce Young isn't perfect and the rest of the team isn't perfect, we will fall. And so throughout this season, which is Bryce Young's third year, Dave Canales' his second year, Dan Morgan's second year as the general manager, I think we're going to have a lot of growing pains early, and we have. But like the tape is there when the mistakes aren't there that we can go out and win games. So as far as Bryce Young goes, if he can cut back on the turnovers and stuff, we saw what he can be last year with a competent offensive system around him. And there are offensive line injuries. There's this and that. Thielen's not there, whatever. But I think the pieces are good enough. He just has to get away from the turnovers. And to me, it's kind of perplexing because at the end of last year, like you said, he wasn't doing stuff like this. So maybe We need to get back to a little bit more of what we were doing last year, but I do have faith that he can cut down on the turnovers. If he doesn't, however, we're going to be in the top 10 of the draft again. And then that's where you start to look at quarterback or like taking a quarterback because this class has quite a few, right? Not his predecessor, but the predecessor to his predecessor, Ty Simpson, right now at Alabama, playing very well. Dante Moore at Oregon, playing well. Fernando Mendoza, Indiana, playing well. John Mateer, Oklahoma. Like, there are a lot of quarterbacks in this draft, but I think that if he can just cut down on the turnovers, this team will be fine.
I I agree with you, and that's why I wanted to bring up the turnover point. Is that if he can't clean this up, we're going to start playing teams that are going to punish you for making these mistakes. We just saw yesterday the Tennessee Titans get their first win against the Cardinals. They were actually able to complete the comeback, something that the Panthers were almost gift
Well,
wrapped it against the Cardinals and couldn't
very
capitalize.
different circumstances, I would say.
Not, we recovered an onside kick and couldn't go 10 yards. Like that,
Steve,
and that
they
feeling.
fumbled a touchdown on the 1 inch line and had an interception that they couldn't bring in, which Tyler Lockett recovered. The Titans were gifted 2 scores essentially.
I
They didn't
understand the
manufacture
point
the comeback
swing.
in the way that the Panthers actually did the work there.
You're right in saying that the Panthers did the work, but there was 2 quarters for them to get back in that game. What I'm saying is that onside kick, like there's no business recovering that. There's no business in getting some of the lucky penalties they had going their way. But regardless, moving on into this game, the Miami Dolphins were 1-3 coming in the town. They're now 1-4. Like these are teams that are not good in the NFL right now. And then you're about to play this coming week a team in the Dallas Cowboys that have been putting up like 35 plus points a game. So it's now you got to be on your P's and Q's because you can't get caught lacking within the first 10, 15 minutes of a game. And so I'm not going to say that the Cowboys defense is worth anything, but it's one of those situations that if Bryce Young, he takes an uncanny sack, he has another fumble, he throws an errant pass that gets intercepted. These mistakes are what costs you games. Like here, the thing about the quarterback position is you can have a great quarterback performance and it not win you a game. So a quarterback can be a reason why you win a game, can be put you in a position to. But I think the biggest thing a quarterback does that really we don't talk about enough is that they can lose you a game really quick. And like that's what Bryce Young is doing. So that's what I want to keep harping on is these turnovers because if they don't get cleaned up, if he can't clean those up, we're going to play teams that are going to make us pay for them. So regardless, if you want to go apples to orange comparison on what the Cardinals and Titans did versus what we and the Cardinals did, we are sleeping way too much in the first half. And that's got to change from a coaching and quarterback standpoint.
I agree, and I, I think it's when we talk about quarterbacks, they get a lot more of the credit than they probably deserve. They also have a lot more of the blame than they probably deserve. And while these turnovers are crippling and lead to points, the rest of the team you saw really bounce back against the Dolphins. You got to remember the Dolphins or the defense gave up a scoring drive to start as a field goal, and then off the turnovers gave up 2 scoring drives. But then they locked in until the very end, which was just like a busted coverage on the Waddle touchdown there. It's a full team thing, and I think we're looking at Bryce Young because he's the number one pick. If he cuts down on the turnovers, we can win games, but then the defense also has to not do what they did in the Patriots game, or the special teams has to do this as well. For me, it's every phase of the team has to be better, be more poignant, be on their P's and Q's, and even if we get the Bryce Young of, let's say, from the Chiefs game onward last year, the rest of the team has to play better as well. I'm not exonerating Bryce Young though. Like the fumble is way worse than the interception to me because
Yes.
you're pushing it downfield and it ended up on like the Dolphins 45, the interception. The fumble also ended up on their side of the field, but it's just complete momentum killer. Whereas he was at least trying to push it downfield to I believe Xavier Leggett on that play. Also, we can get into the actual Dolphins game breakdown now. I think shout out Xavier Leggett coming back and making an effort. Not only did he score, which was it was a dart, the touchdown by the way, and he did a good job holding on. He held on to the ball on the sideline. It was like identical late in that fourth quarter, an
Mm-hmm.
identical play to the Jags game. He gets both feet in, and he was probably the best non-offensive lineman blocker today too. Just like horrific pancakes on a lot of the Dolphins defensive backs to spring Rico Dowdle to get some of those big runs. So I think coming back, and he didn't ride dollar bill, like he seems locked in right now. And I want to give Leggett the credit because we've been bashing him, rightfully so, but he's looking really, really good. If he can look like this the rest of the year, paired with T Mac and hopefully getting Jalen Coker back soon, this receiving group is going to be pretty impressive. One of the better groups we've had since probably like the Teddy Bridgewater year.
It will definitely be up there. It will be interesting to see if Jalen Coker still has the same pop he does coming back off the injury. He looked good in training camp in the offseason. But to your point, Xavier Legette, he stepped up this game. He was good last year in the red zone. And so those tough catches, I want to see more of in between the 20s. And so you obviously saw the repeat kind of play that he had against the Jaguars that kind of put him on notice by Panthers Nation. He's cleaning up some of those just mental errors, and you like to see that. You're seeing the effort, you're seeing the dog that he was built out to be, and hopefully he continues that trajectory. That's what you want to see. You want to see that development. T Mac, he's exactly what we thought he was. And then to go back to the point, I think of how Dan Morgan has built the offense in terms of just who he's put on like the trenches and then the depth. You look at the offensive line, we haven't really skipped a beat with guys like Cade Mays, Brady Christensen stepping up. And those guys were backups. Those were guys that we decided to bring back, keep on this roster because we knew if the starters went down that they could come in and play at a very high level. And then you look at what Rico Dowdle brings. The reason why he got brought in is the offense and the coaching staff believe that, hey, when we have either Rico or Chuba on the field, the defense doesn't know if it's a run or pass because they're literally a one-for-one exchange. Like they bring a lot of the same skill set to the table. So that's what's nice to see is that even when some of these starters are going down, when you're seeing the injuries that happen to everybody across the league, we're able to still kind of maintain our stride on offense. And that I at least appreciate that from a fan perspective because there hasn't been a lot to look forward to with this team, but that is one of them.
One name, or I guess a couple names that we left out here as well. Mitchell Evans, like I mentioned, scored another touchdown. I was very high on him in the draft, if you remember, and I think he's been a very good secondary tight end piece. Jimmy Horn Jr. also saw his first action, first non-preseason action in the NFL this weekend. I thought it was impressive. He had the end around, which before this week, I'm sure Canales would have called to David Moore if he were healthy. But he had the big the second big fourth down conversion late in the fourth quarter to kind of set up that final touchdown. He impressed me. I thought he did a lot of things well, especially for his smaller frame. And while last year's draft, it's looking better based on this week, but I think this year's draft compared to last year's draft, night and day different. Like all 8 players in this draft have a defined role. Ransom, he's not starting, but he's playing a lot more because Trayvon Merrick is playing linebacker on big nickel packages. Trevin Wallace is now the green dot. He and Roseboom switched, and Wallace looked incredible, and Roseboom looked a lot better since they made that change there. So I got to give credit to Coach Evero on that one. All the rookies showed out this week. I guess other than Princely, he didn't really do much, but Nick Scorton, I think, was the big story for me on defense. He was an absolute demon in the run game. The I guess would be the second scoring drive for the Dolphins there. He or the first one rather. He had 2 consecutive run stops against A-Chain. One was a screen, or one was a screen to Malik Washington, and one was just a draw to the left. Consecutive stops that put him in field goal range after DB sacks Tua. I think he's playing excellent as a starter right now, and it's going to be hard to leave him off the field. Nick Scorton, I'm talking about.
Absolutely. No, Scorton's a guy that I think has been able to impress, and you see the evolution and growth over the course of weeks. Like it's definitely a linear progression for him. And I think if he gets after the quarterback a little bit more on pass rushing downs, he's going to become a more complete player. This was a guy that we knew coming in was going to be a great addition in the run game and stopping the run and setting the edge. And he's done exactly that. So when you look at what our defense is able to do with the additions, I mean, again, holding the Miami Dolphins run game to like 19 total yards is insane. Like that is a far cry from where we were last year, or even in week 1 of this year against the Jacksonville Jaguars. So if you can keep building on these performances, winning in the trenches, you're going to give yourself an opportunity. And that opportunity, I think, presents itself on Sunday to a degree. I think there is talent on the Jets defensive line. They weren't able to take advantage against a Dallas Cowboys offensive line that is completely depleted from an injury standpoint. I mean, they were missing 4 out of their 5 starters last Sunday, and they're going to be missing a ton of them this Sunday. Do you think this is a group with Derek Brown, Scorton, and some of the other players that we've talked about that are going to be able to take advantage of this offensive line? Or do you think Dak Prescott, similar to Drake May, is going to be able to take advantage of Trevin Wallace and Roseboom? Because I think that is something that Tua wasn't really able to exploit. And I think good quarterbacks are able to exploit the middle of the field in a way that I think inferior, or I would say average quarterbacks aren't able to do as well.
Well, I want to say in the beginning of the game, they certainly were doing that. Waller was eating over the middle of the field. For whatever reason, McDaniel just decided to go away from it. I don't really have problems with how Tua performed, to be quite frank. He wasn't like a world beater, but I thought he did everything he needed to do. The rest of the team just kind of didn't do their part. As it pertains to this Sunday, I think our front is uniquely tailored to handle the Cowboys' run game. Javonte Williams had quite a day as well. Like I know Rico Dowdle was impressive, but Williams had 130 yards, a big chunk of it coming on one play where the Jets just didn't want to tackle before halftime, and he got like a 66-yard run there. I think our front, while it may not be as talented or as highly invested, is much more physical than the Jets' defensive front. Particularly the linebackers. Now that we switched the green dot there, so I think stopping the run, I don't think is going to be the major issue. It's going to be Dak Prescott and his ability to take advantage. He's one of the better pre-snap guys, and I think even though he does take some long sacks and stuff, he's better at avoiding plays like that nowadays. This is like year 10 for him, I think, year 9 maybe, and that's going to be the key. J.C. Horn staying with George Pickens, Mike Jackson having a good game, the safeties and stuff like that. This is definitely going to be more of a challenge. You look at what the Cowboys offense has been able to do. But on the flip side, I think our this is going to sound very weird to say. I think our ability to pass the ball downfield on this Cowboys team is going to be better than it was versus the Dolphins. And the Dolphins secondary stinks, but I don't know if the Cowboys are as big and physical up front as the Dolphins are. I want to caveat real quick that James Houston, one of the rushers on Dallas, has had a very, very good year so far. But a lot of the Dallas guys are smaller, isn't the point I'm trying to make. And our offensive line thrives against smaller people because they can move them out of the way, build the run, and then build the play action off of that. So I think it's going to be interesting, but Dallas certainly is a much stronger offensive team. So that's going to be the test for our defense.
I think I agree with the sentiment that the Cowboys defensive line is smaller and we need to lean into, I think, running more effectively against their front. And obviously, their trade with the Packers, they try to bring in some interior help. It's more or less helped. I'm not necessarily saying that it's as bad a run defense as it was last year in Dallas, but they haven't really improved on that front. So if you can take advantage of that and you can put yourself in second and third manageable situations, I think you're going to be able to slow guys like Donovan Ezeraku out of Boston College, their other edge rusher, and Dante Fowler on some of these pass rush downs, because I think that's where they're going to be able to generate pressure and put Bryce Young in situations where he could make some of these costly errors that we've seen him make in these prior games. So I think if you want to have a chance at beating the Cowboys, you need to stick to your game script and be a balanced team going into this game, because Bryce Young, as much as he was a part of the comeback on Sunday, we were down 17-13 at stretches, and he had like pretty much like it was just on him to like just pick up a first down or two, and he couldn't do that. It was Rico Dowdle right after halftime that put us in field goal range with that big 50-yard run. Bryce Young took a sack that put us almost out of field goal range. It's just there were different points in that game where it's like Bryce Young had the ability to go win it and he couldn't, and that's where we leaned into the run game. We slowed everything down and it worked out. And so don't put ourselves in a hole, stay balanced. And I think this is a game that, yes, you have here down in the notes that it could be a shootout. And I think in order for us to win or have a chance to be competitive, it will be very similar to what we saw last year against the Cardinals and the Falcons.
On and there was a period in the third quarter where we stalled. The Dolphins did cover quite well. I would say late third going into the fourth, and Dowdle was key in this game, but Bryce Young also had back to back game winning drives there at the end of the fourth. So I think when the game's on the line and the players are able to get open, there's potential there. But there was a lull there in the middle. I think there were three consecutive series in the second half where we didn't score. We can't have like I think ball control is also going to be another factor in this game. Like 38 or more minutes where we possess the ball, and that's where the run game comes in, right? When you're playing against explosive offenses with pretty poor defenses, I think we can say that about Dallas. Limiting their offense's time on the field is going to be key, right? And so I think
Yep.
running the ball is going to be effective. I look back at because Alabama and Vanderbilt just played again, and 2 years ago Alabama had the ball for less than 18 minutes, and Vanderbilt boat raced them. Right? It was like 40-35. This past weekend, Alabama had the ball for about 45 minutes and just limited Vanderbilt's time on the field. They get the win. And I think something similar like that is going to have to happen where last year Dallas came in and just fried us, right? I remember Coker
With
got
Cooper
the
Rush.
yeah, I remember Coker and Micah Parsons. I remember Coker got the big touchdown right before the half, but their defensive front was imposing. We couldn't run the ball very well. I think you got to switch it up. We got to lean on Rico Dowdle and Trevor Etienne had some good runs as well. Run with them, and then build the play action game off of that. We can't come into the game. Maybe the scripted drive you can, like the first drive. We
Yeah.
can't come into the game ready to run air raid. Like you got to commit to the run. Rico Dowdle just had 200.
Yeah, and the Cowboys, like I said at the top of this, they've done stuff to improve their run game, but it's not like this significant boost or investment that we saw the Panthers make this past off season. So with those factors considered, it's you have to maintain some sort of balance because I think that's what's going to keep Bryce Young afloat. And I'm not disagreeing with you that he didn't clutch up in the fourth, but you want to limit the mistakes in the first half and you want to make sure there are no lulls. And I think that's the perfect complement is that you can't just go away from it. And what I don't want it to feel like, because I think this is why I brought up kind of like the what to do about Bryce Young, is it feels like when we're in competitive situations in some of these games, like the Cardinals or even those lull periods this past week against Miami, it's just like you can't get anything going. It's like you have to be down 2 scores to generate anything. And it seems like almost at that point, the defense is playing like a prevent coverage. Like they're not trying to give up the big plays, so they'll give you everything underneath. And so I want to see more consistency from Bryce Young in this offense when it's like a one possession game early on and see the fight then instead of putting yourself in a hole that you have to climb out of for the next 30 minutes. And at that point, you've already lost your audience because as a Panthers fan, it's hard to keep getting excited if this continues being the output.
I agree with you there. I'd also like to see uh how do I put it? Less of a John Fox era offense once we instantly gain the lead. Like if there was one critique I would have about Dave Canales this past week is Dowdle was incredible, but as soon as we took the lead, it was all right, we're gonna run on first and second down. And when it got stopped, then it's like, all right, now throw. Like yes, you lean on the run game, but you gotta mix some play action into it as well.
Mm-hmm. You
And
can't
like
be running on second and 10. And that's where you have to have the short game as an element of your passing game. And we have no screen game. That is something that Dave
right.
Canales needs to evolve with.
And I think having Lee get back as a blocker, having Jimmy Horn who can get in and out of tight spaces, that's going to help. The last point I'll make on the offense, I guess, here is early this season. I'm talking about the Cardinals and the Falcons game. We saw Bryce Young under center a lot more, and so you could actually do play action off of that. I feel like we're like kind of getting away from that the past couple of weeks. Obviously, against I almost said Green Bay, New England, that game was just over, right? So you can't really like you just have to spread out and go. But I would like to see more play action, more under center, mix it up is what I'm trying to say. I remember you used to do a series every week about like this is your personnel deployment when Frank Reich was here, and he deployed like 11 personnel, the same players 100% of the time with no pre-snap motion, no nothing. Like just mix it up a little bit. We're in year 2 of the Canales offense.
Seeing some more of that variety would be nice. I think that's like obviously we've had some injuries with JT Sanders, which makes it a little bit harder with the 12 personnel. We have some injuries with wide receivers, making it hard to like I think be at full strength when you're in
That's true.
11. And so there's caveats there. I would say the biggest thing moving forward, and I think you got to have this in your bag, and a lot of the Shanahan offenses do, is you got to have a fullback. And I know like Panthers fans remember Mike Tolbert, but when you have that aspect of a true fullback in the sense of like a blocker, not necessarily a receiving threat, it opens up so much more for you because you almost force a defense into more of a base look. And if they don't get in a base look, you have a favorable advantage in the run game. So very similar to like a 12 personnel look, but I would like to see the Panthers maybe acquire a fullback moving forward because I think that adds, like you said, another page or layer to things, making it harder on the defense to react.
Not even Mike Tolbert. Alex Arma was huge with that for
Exactly.
like
Okay.
three or
Yeah. I
four years
almost
there. Yeah,
I
like
blanked out on,
Tolbert
and
was
he's
an
a
all
better
pro, you
example.
know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you. You can even throw Tommy Tremble back there. Like he doesn't need to like run the ball out of the backfield. Just throw him back there so we can get a lead and hit somebody on the run. You know, or
Mm-hmm.
throw. Well, we have O line injuries now, so maybe don't throw an O lineman back there. But if we were healthy, throw Cade Mays back there as the fullback. But that's kind of what I want to see, some variety, ball control, uh, obviously limit the turnovers. And with that, I think we have a chance, but um, the defensive performances we've been having, I feel are kind of fool's gold, like the good ones we've been having. The Dolphins offense without Tyreek Hill just falls apart. Just plain and simple. And Michael Penix, whatever was going on that day, complete meltdown. And outside of that, really, we had one good half against Kyler Murray. The other games, the 4-1 Jaguars now kind of fried us the whole game, and the Patriots, who just beat the Bills, also had their way with the defense. So this is also a prove it moment for the defense to me because the Cowboys offense is still good. As long as Dak's there, they're going to be fine. I need to see them like hanker or bunker down in this game and play some good defense against an actual good quarterback.
And that's what worries me is I think when we go up against a truly competent quarterback, and so like this is where I think Trevor Lawrence, he really does skirt that kind of like Jared Goff line of being like that average quarterback in the NFL, and I like kind of being that line crossing over between a starting quarterback and a franchise quarterback. And that's where you start going down the list. It's like Drake May, Dak Prescott. These are game changers. These are guys that are able to win from the pocket. And I don't know if we're ready to head in the perfect takes, but just knowing that we play a lot of cover three, or that's something that as Giro Evero likes to lean into, who's a perfect seam ball runner if not Jake Ferguson? And I feel like that's going to be the advantage of this game is, yeah, you could have JC Horn, Mike Jackson take their turns and trying to limit George Pickens as much as possible. He just completely torched Sauce Gardner. So, and I'm not saying Sauce Gardner is better than JC Horn, but I think George Pickens is of the manner that he will probably have one or two opportunities against some of these guys, and he might win those. And then you look at Jake Ferguson, and I'm not exactly thrilled about his matchup on some of our safeties and linebackers. And that could be a long day because this is a guy that over the past 3 weeks, actually, no, 4 weeks, the only week he did not have more than 7 receptions was week one against the Eagles. He's had at least 7 receptions the other week. And I don't think that changes. I think he gets at least 7 receptions. I think he gets a touchdown this game. And that is my perfect take. I don't know if we're there yet, but that's where I just think the defense, where we need to grow moving forward, and it's hard to do like all in one off season. We did a lot of work in the trenches and kind of the outside of the defense, not so much like the middle of it. That next off season, get some linebackers, get some safeties. You're going to be able to be a little bit more competitive against some of these quarterbacks that are able to just maximize these disadvantages and mismatches on the back end.
I like your take. My take last week was that Darren Waller would get another one after he had two right against the Jets in the first half, two touchdowns. I'm referring to, and obviously he got another one. I think he scored the Dolphins' first touchdown. I'm trying to look for. Yeah, okay. So I agree with you with everything you're saying. Tight ends are still our weakness. I'd love to see like a first round linebacker if we can, if Bryce Young like locks in and doesn't commit turnovers. Maybe we pick like 15th or something, go like 8 and 9, 7 and 10, and we can get a first round linebacker. That would be awesome. Or a first down safety, like if Caleb Downs falls down the board, that would be awesome. My take is that this game is going to hit the over. And I know that's kind of a weaker one, but it's 49 and a half. And a lot of the Panthers games haven't really hit the over unless it's been like the Cardinals game, which was a close game there at the end. I don't think the Pats game might have because we scored there at the very end.
Well, I think they alone hit the
Well,
over. So
yeah, and well, they're a good team now, so I think the combined score is going to be, I'll say, more than 52. Like I'll call it 51 and a half. The over is at 49 and a half right now. I'm going to say like the final score is going to be like 30 to 24 or like 34 to 24 or something like that.
who do you have winning this game?
We'll see. We'll see. I got to
Wait,
see injury info
well,
right now.
no. Okay, no. But like, I honestly think like if you have the Panthers winning, both teams score over 30. So I think the over hits regardless. I think if the Cowboys win, the Panthers don't score over 30. But like the Cowboys have been like scoring over 30 points outside of the Bears game. I like every single week. Like I mean,
Yeah,
they
that's
took the Packers defense to overtime and scored 40 there. Like
well, that's kind of what. Let me look up what the Cowboys have done so far, but that's kind of what I'm alluding to. I don't think it matters who wins this game. I think it's going to hit the over regardless. The Bears game, you're right, was kind of a weird one. That's the game where CeeDee Lamb got injured, right? Was the Bears game midway
yep.
through, but
Well, not
every
even
other
midway through.
game,
It was like first quarter. He goes out within the first series. Oh my
I,
gosh, my
I'm not
fantasy
gonna
football season.
say week one because that was the season opener and everyone's a little sluggish, right? But week two, 40 to 37. Week three, 31-14. That was the Bears game. Week four was 40 to 40. Abolish ties in the NFL. Like that's still ridiculous to me. And then last week was 37 to 22. I don't think it matters who's gonna win. I think either way, um, we'll say both teams are going to score at least 24 and the winner is going to score at least like 30 or more. So
Oh
that's
well.
where I'm going. Like even the Jets are 0-5 right now. Even the Jets got 22 points on the Cowboys this past week.
Oh yeah. If the Cowboys are able to, if we see the Panthers do what they've done, which is make a couple turnovers. The other team capitalizes on those, and the Cowboys are able to keep building on their lead. I guarantee you, Bryce Young or if Andy Dalton comes in, they're going to score a couple touchdowns late in garbage time, and you'll probably hit this over because I think you're right. The winning team probably scores no less than 30, and there's a good chance that both teams score well over 20. So it's a good take. You are playing at home, but we've now seen the Dallas Cowboys in back-to-back years where we thought these were games that maybe we have a shot against, and they completely steamroll us. So for whatever reason, they've had our number. We'll see if that changes. For me, it's just not having the personnel in the middle of your defense and still missing a couple guys on offense to, I think, really go toe for toe with this team that seems to be rolling at the moment.
Yeah, it's almost like a division game at this point. We've hosted them the last 2 years here at Bank of America Stadium, and then there was a gap year, and then we played in Dallas. That was the Sam Darnold's the best QB in Panthers history game. Word to Terry Bradshaw. We I can't
Now
believe that was a one
He
score
balled
game.
out this past weekend, but well, we came back in that
He's
game.
a that's true. He's a legitimate good quarterback now. I think he has his
He still
moments
turns
where
into a
he
pumpkin. He still
shirks.
turns into a
Well,
pumpkin.
the we're getting off track here, but the end of
We
that
get
game, I
off
don't know if you watched. Yeah, like the lineman got pushed into the throw, which kind of hit it. I wouldn't say that was his fault. I thought he played
I don't
phenomenally in
know.
the fourth
He
quarter.
said in the press conference he could have slid the protection. Blah blah blah. I know it's just quarterback
Yeah,
talk. He was taking accountability, but yeah.
right. Like to that point, I think Darnold's been very, very good to start this year. Both he and Baker, unfortunately, as soon as they leave the Panthers, have turned into we'll say top 12 QBs this year. But I think that's gonna do it. I mean, Darnold's been playing better than most of the QBs in the league. Uh,
Oh no!
but
I was laughing because of our conversation earlier. So the top 12 was just an
oh,
interesting cutoff
about
point. That
Baker. Yeah.
was
Well,
about Baker.
to
So
throw both of them, would you say that Darnold's been a top 6 QB? I wouldn't say that. He's somewhere between 6 and 10, I think. And I think it's a very good point for him. He's been very good
yeah.
this year.
No.
So,
I think Darnold is definitely an above average quarterback. Everybody that thought there was going to be a drop off between Geno and him, it's been the exact opposite. So
yeah.
I mean, you're absolutely right on that front.
And I was one of those people, so like I'll take accountability there. I think the Seahawks offense has been very, very good. JSN, All Pro type of year that he's having there, But I think that's going to do it. Like I said, we're still kind of early. Like I want to see if Jalen Coker's playing, or if Turk Wharton's going to play. They didn't play last week, and we still got the win. But I would feel much better if they were playing. So I don't know if I'll have a prediction yet, but maybe if they show the injury report, I'll tweet something out. But I think that's going to do it. Hopefully, we can stack together another win, another home win, and we can talk about some positive things next Tuesday. I have a secret weapon that if we win next week, I'll explain what it was. That both times we've won, I've done a certain thing or worn a certain piece of clothing, maybe, and I will be wearing it again. So hopefully that gets the job done. But until then, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. We will be back Tuesday for another hopeful Panthers win. But until then, keep pounding.